Hello, everybody, and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle and to my latest episode of New Album Spotlight. This is the show where I put the spotlight on a new progressive rock album that I've been enjoying, and I recommend it to you guys, give you guys an impression of what it sounds like and why I love it so much, and leave you guys to go check it out on your own if you're interested. So today I have a really exciting one that I've been wanting to talk about. This is I Am the Manic Whale and their album Bumper Book of Mystery Stories. This actually just came out, released digitally through their Bandcamp this past weekend. The CDs should be coming soon. A lot of people have been pre-ordering those. I've pre-ordered my copy, and it seems like those should be coming shortly. A little bit delayed, and it also is going to be accompanied with a book if you want to order a book of short stories that ties into the theme of the album. So a lot of cool stuff physically to be released as well. But this is a fantastic album that I think many of you who love the same kind of music I love will definitely enjoy. Definitely if you're a fan of bands like Spock's Beard, Neil Morse, Flower Kings, Big Big Train, Classic Genesis, all of that is baked into the stew of this really incredible, quirky, fun little band that I think deserves a lot more acclaim and attention. They're very underrated, I think, in the prog scene and should be one of the big names of the newer progressive rock movement in my mind. So I Am the Manic Whale is a band that was formed in the UK in 2015. It consists of Michael Whiteman on bass and vocals, David Addis on guitars and backing vocals, Ben Hartley on drums and backing vocals, and John Murphy on keyboards and vocals. So a really cool lineup of a band. They have a lot of ability in the singing department. There's a lot of cool harmonies, a lot of cool range from the different singing. Michael Whiteman, of course, is the one taking the lead, and he has a very quirky, distinctive voice, but you hear a lot of beefed up harmonies and beautiful sounds in the vocals, so that's really a highlight to me that I enjoy. And their penchant for melody. They really write good vocal hooks. They really hook you in and are very memorable. So Michael Whiteman actually was a collaborator on last year's Myth of the Mostraphus, which was an album by Ryo Okamoto. He was all over that album. He helped co-write a lot of stuff on it, I believe, with Ryo, and you could hear his voice on a lot of the tracks there. So very much the spirit of that album, I feel, is brought into this album as well. There's a lot of pieces that to me feel like they could have been written in some of the same sessions, and that gives you an impression of what kind of sound you could expect, because it's obvious to me that this band really respects and loves Spock's Beard and Ryo in particular, and you can hear that influence through their music. To me, it's like a good cross between Big Big Train with their storytelling aspect and some of their more lush symphonic moments, and the quirkiness and fun of a band like Spock's Beard. They have a sense of humor. They're willing to tell quirky stories and put in weird, quirky instrumental sections that are really fun and take you on a journey, and I think they have the greatest combination of both those things working in their favor. So it's just such a fun band and such a fun listen to go through this music. And I'm never bored. I always have something fun to catch my ear. And I like the quirks in their voice and just really interesting things that they do instrumentally. It's just all fun, and that's the kind of music I like, is positive, fun, enjoyable music that just keeps a smile on my face and keeps me happy through the runtime, never makes me lose attention or, get bored. It's always fun and exciting, and I think they do that to a T. So this album in particular, the concept here, it seems like the idea for this album came from a dusty old book discovered in a creepy secondhand bookshop many years ago, drawing inspiration for each piece of music from various mysterious stories and circumstances, some from real life, some pure invention, some based on folklore, some based on other works of fiction. So what I like about this band, not just on this album, but on all their albums, they're really interesting storytellers. They really capture a lot of interesting concepts and things, both from history, from fiction, from all sorts of places. They just find really interesting topics to get into. And I like how this album is bookended by this Ghost Train song. Ghost Train Part 1 opens the album with some beautiful acoustic guitar and Whiteman's powerful voice and great melodies. And it really introduces you to the concept of like, come aboard this train, we're going to tell you some interesting stories, and it gives this vibe of like this kind of campfire, like these are going to be scary stories, you might not want to come aboard, but if you do, get ready for the ride of your life, kind of thing. And it's a really fun way to introduce the album, and it's cool that it loops back around to it at the end, like, this has been your journey, how was your journey, you're still aboard the train, that sort of thing. And it's really cool, and it gives this sort of Genesis pastoral type quality at times with the vocal harmonies and the acoustic guitar, but then they're able to really come in with this heaviness, with this almost Beatles She's So Heavy type buildup of real intensity to kind of bring about that anticipation, and this is what you can expect on this journey. It's not all going to be roses, there's going to be some scarier elements and some harsher things you might have to deal with, so the music really encapsulates that. And I like that throughout the record, that the music really encapsulates the stories that they're telling. It's really descriptive, and you can hear certain quirks about the music that really portray what they're trying to sing about, And I think that's just such a cool quality to the album. We get into second track, Patient AB, which starts with a pretty killer guitar riff as the drums power in with Hammond organ in the backing. You get almost this eerie ghost-like keyboard type sound before the vocals come in, which I think is probably a nod to that Ghost Train type aspect and the Ghost Stories type vibe of the whole release. That gives it a little bit of an off-kilter, sort of spooky vibe, but it's always still fun. It's not spooky in a way that like is really terrifying. It's more of a fun, campy sort of way, and I think that really works throughout the record. Great layered vocals throughout this piece, and a cool proggy instrumental section halfway that shows some keyboard and guitar chops. They're always able to throw in those cool instrumental moments that really bring a lot of fun and variety. Dream Fortune has an almost breezy, jazzy opening with some plucked guitar strings, much more laid back and dreamy as you might expect from the title, Dream Fortune. And I really like that jazzy feel and the more vibey way that it goes about. I really love the verse and pre-chorus melodies, just really excellent. A nice guitar solo flows out about halfway through and brings this epic spirit, and it keeps crescendoing, bringing us back to the chorus. And it ends with a bit of a jammier feel with some more impressive guitar displays. So a really cool track that's really fun and breezy. Secret Passage keeps that vibe going with some nice guitars and tinkling keys before we get the vocals, bit of a shuffle feel in the drumming, and we get mostly a positive, uplifting, fun song. One of my favorite moments of this track is a cool keyboard soloing section halfway through. Great synth soloing, just perfect, adding a really cool vibe to this piece that sort of evokes like that Narnia type secret passageway into, the Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, going into a fantastical new land and having adventures and that sort of thing. It's interesting to me that all these little tracks tell these short stories, but they're all different vibes. Some are more haunting, some are more positive and uplifting, some are more fun, some are more historical. You get a big mixture and a grab bag of different types of stories throughout the release that I think keeps the variety and keeps the interest of the track listing. But moving forward from there comes some of my favorite tracks. I think the second half of the album is a bit stronger than the earlier half, even though it's all pretty consistent throughout. The Incredible David, to me, is where their big train influences really shine forward, with some beautiful classical type piano, some sweet acoustic guitar over the top, and some lovely, almost jazz-inflected vocal harmonies that just sound perfect. There's female vocals in this, I believe. It's Sally Minier that comes on board to give some backing vocals that are really beautiful and add to this breezy vibe. It has a bit of a slower pace and a slower build, but there's just so much gorgeous melodies going on, some great piano with a little bit of hidden darkness in the background, great guitar solos on top. There's an impactful moment here where intensity builds and it just has a really cool arc. It just continues in a really flowing, nice manner, builds in a really satisfying way to a great conclusion, and it's a really fun, awesome track with really gorgeous sounds to it. Nautilus comes next, and this is one of the two more epic length songs, I would say. This one's a bit longer, and to me, Nautilus, more than any other track, feels like the logical sequel to Rio's Myth of the Mostraphus, the actual epic track from Rio's album. I think there's a lot of great storytelling here, some really cool bouncy piano and searing keyboards, catchy vocal melodies. We get more of that layered vocals and things. We get a little bit of underwater noises and things to help accentuate the song and the lyrics, because this is a story about a captain on a ship going off on his own, and doing this marine research and ocean discovery, getting involved with another ship of different crewmates, it seems, and exploring together and getting into these darker adventures in the waters and fighting off these sea creatures and that sort of vibe. So you get a great instrumental section that really accentuates this like sea creature battle, and this more intense section, really quirky proggy stuff with some heavy stabs of drums and guitar and keyboards. It's a really cool section. There's a bit of a dual section between guitars and keys, some great impressive drum and bass work underneath it, almost like a Furious Crimson-esque type drum pattern. Disco grooves come in later on in the track, which also reminds me of Myth of the Monstrous. Just really fun blast here to have this really cool, quirky instrumental section. And then, of course, it brings it back to the main melodies and main themes. And I like how the vocals go down, down, down. You get this kind of lowered vocal as the ship sinks down into the depths, and you hear that also in the piano melodies. So a really cool touch and really fun stuff that they're doing with the music. Then we get a really fun track, Erno's Magic Cube, which is just an 80s inspired, quirky, funky rock track. Just love it. Great 80s synths and funky bass lines, great melody, vocal melodies on top, almost a dancey, bouncy vibe at times, talking about the creation of the Rubik's Cube, a very 80s inspired toy that people really love. So it's a really quirky song with a really interesting subject matter that only they could do this way, and I just really love it. I think this is one of the best tracks of the album, just so fun. Leading us into the final epic of the track listing here, the final epic of the album. We interrupt this broadcast, which we get sounds of a little bit of a radio broadcast before we lead into a clean guitar line, drum shuffle, prominent bass, and sparkling keys. A guitar solo comes out on top and leads the way before keys take over, and the band members are all able to shine in an opening sort of overture instrumental section. We get some almost alien keyboard sounds perking up out of the fray before we get an almost prog metal type section that's really dark and heavy, leading us back into more of a vocal groovy section with some laid back Floydian backdrop. Really cool variety, a lot of interesting different sounds being portrayed here, and it's a very sci-fi inspired story about aliens visiting and trying to promise a greater future for the Earth if we just change our ways. But of course Earth is just not able to change their ways, and it's kind of a sad, twisted ending of the Earth just never getting revisited by these alien visitors because we're just too far gone and sinking deeper into our violent ways and destructive habits. So kind of a darker ending to the album, and this is expressed in that Ghost Train type ending that we've saved the scariest track for last, the most dark ending here about what humanity's leading towards, our ultimate destruction, but this track is just killer. Has so many cool, interesting instrumental moments, some cool vocal hooks, some really interesting, catchy sections, just really cool with some really interesting, almost extraterrestrial type sounding instrumentation, especially in the keyboards. Some great bluesy guitar solos coming out of the mix as well. There's just so many great main themes and sections, and you just really have to sit back and enjoy it. And when it all comes back around to reprising the Ghost Train section, it's really magical. We get this intense burst and this really big epic conclusion that has a bit of darkness underneath it because of the theme of that final story, and it just really is great, and a cool ending that loops back around as all good concept albums tend to do. So really overall, I just love this album. It's just fun. It has an interesting journey, a great concept. Like I said, if you enjoy bands like Big Big Train and Spock's Beard and Flower Kings and that more fun, quirky, positive, symphonic prog vibe, this is a good album to check out. I think it has wide appeal, it has a lot of great stuff going for it, and I hope you guys will seek it out because it's just a whole lot of fun to listen to. So thank you guys so much for joining me on this episode. Hopefully you guys appreciated the review, and if you're so inclined, please go check out the album. I'll put a link in the description to their Bandcamp so you can go search it out if you're interested. And hopefully you all are just enjoying the music out there, whatever you've got going on. This is a great band. I encourage you to check out their back catalog as well. This is their 4th album, I believe. So they have 3 prior albums that are all fantastic also. So really great band, deserve much more attention, and I hope this can bring them a few new listeners, because that's always my purpose here with these shows, is to bring these great bands a bit more attention and to get them some new listeners that they deserve to have because of how awesome their music is, and it deserves to be heard. So thank you guys so much, and I'll catch you guys in a future episode. Bye!